Hi, I'm Don Bodan from SampleLibraryReview.com. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. I've been digging into a track that I'm working on for a project I can't talk about, but I've come to a point where I need an acoustic guitar, and I need to program it for some very specific reasons that it may change tempo. I might need to cut things and move around quickly after I've already gotten everything programmed and ready and mixed and mastered. So to go back to that, I want to use MIDI. And the acoustic guitar that I had in mind were Evolution Steel String. This is one of Orange Tree Sample's libraries that I've loved for years. I've been using it all the time. But since there are 3 other Evolution acoustic guitars, and I have a few minutes today, it's nice and quiet here in the studio, I'm going to go ahead and play through each of the different Orange Tree Sample's acoustic Evolution guitars so we can hear a little bit about the different tones and timbres that each of them have, and then I'll also tell you what my final decision is as to which one I'm going to be using for this particular project. All of these presets I've programmed in and then saved and copied them into my other Evolution guitar instruments. So they're all playing the same patterns, with the only exception being, and I'm pretty sure that these are all the most updated versions, that the Evolution Steel String has fingered strums as well as picked strums. So for the Evolution Steel String, I've set it to the picked strums because I really want that bite and that attack. I'll play it in context, and then I'll play it by itself, and then I'll take off any and all programming so we can hear each of them individually. So here we go, Evolution Steel String with in the mix with all of its effects turned on. So I think what I hear is it's a nice, clean sound cutting through, lots of bite and plenty of body as well. And you can hear that is double tracked there versus a single track. And it just adds a little bit of depth. It does some auto panning. And I've got just the humanization at 7% because I don't want it too much. So what it's doing is it's acting like there's 2 different players. If you're not familiar with the Evolution engine, it's got 2 strum keys here, which are really great ways to program in besides the strumming engine, which we're using right here. So that's the Evolution Steel String. Again, that's kind of been my go-to for quite a while. I'm a big fan of that guitar, but what I want to check out is one of the newer guitars, which is the Evolution Songwriter. Here he is, and see how this one holds up in comparison with the mix. I got a setting called Golden Hill that I've tweaked out a bit. Again, you'll see I've got some double tracking on and just a little bit of humanization. So let's go ahead and listen to that one by itself. So with this one in particular, I really like the quality of this guitar. There's something about it that's fitting nice in the mix. I got it turned up a little loud, but that's because we're focused on it. The other thing I want to note is that on the Evolution Steel String, which we'd listened to just before, that we had both fingered and picked strums. On this guitar, Evolution Songwriter, we've just got picks that automatically pull up. So I've got the same strum pattern that we listened to before, and we listened to it with the double tracking on. I'm going to go back to single tracking, and we're going to solo it just so you could hear it. I feel like it gives it just a little bit more depth to do that double tracking. Just kind of gives it a little more space in the mix. But I do like the hominess, maybe, of the sound of this guitar and these settings. So this one's a contender. I think it sounds better in context for what I'm going for with this track. Next up is something I normally wouldn't jump to using a 12 string, but I've got one, and for the purposes of listening to all the Evolution acoustics, I thought I'd pull it up as well. So it's got all the same strumming patterns included. These strums are picked strums, just like the Songwriter, and I do have it set up with double tracking and a little bit of humanization. So let's go ahead and I'll just play it back with the 12 string so we can see what that does in context of the track. What I feel like I'm hearing is it's sparkly, it's big. That's with the jumbo sound. It's got a large frequency range, and it definitely has that 12-string brilliance and shimmer. Listening back to it, in particular with this double tracking, it does spread it out. It's got a nice stereo space. So I'm thinking, although this might not be the main guitar I want to use to introduce through verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, this sound might be nice as an additive to layer back maybe in verse 2 or verse 3 when I want to change it up a little bit. So I might go into these presets and just let him do the downbeats, not so much those syncopated strums, up strums, I should say, and see how that blends with the main guitar, which I have yet to decide what it is. Moving on, we've got the Evolution Flatpick 6. Now, this is the newer of the acoustic 6 strings, and I've been blown away by just the character of this, the sound of this instrument. I'll go ahead and play through this setup with Evolution Flatpick 6. As you can see, it's got the picked strumming articulations loaded. There are no fingers for those. I've got it in single track mode, just to keep in the spirit of what we'll be doing. I'm going to go with double tracking at 8% using the same strum patterns because we've copied and loaded them in. We've saved them from the original and loaded them in on each of the instruments. I've got a preset loaded up with a little bit of tone adjustments and whatnot. So let's just listen to this one. Now, just stopping right there, this preset, it's got a lot of heavy compression, and you can hear it there in playback. And I think that's one of the things that kind of adds some charm to it. But overall, I like the character quite a bit. Let's go ahead and listen to it as a single track soloed, so it's not doubled. Now, I feel like listening back with it doubled, you get a little more space to it. That auto multi-track humanization is really nice, and it gives it just that little bit of oomph that it needs. In my opinion, I think I've narrowed it down to two: Evolution Flat Pick 6 or Evolution Songwriter. Now, there's a variety of things I could do to adjust my tone, EQ, effects, and whatnot, and compression, as I might have noted. That this honeybee setting that I started tweaking out, it has a little more heavier compressed sound, which I think works for this. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and forth between these two and see if I can make a decision. So I think what I am feeling when I'm listening to this back here is that Evolution Flat Pick 6, it sounds really nice, clear, upfront. The way I've programmed it with the presets and the tone structures, it's very produced and sounds really clear and professional. I like it a lot, but I think the Evolution Songwriter has more character when it's utilized in this way, with the tone and different programming set up for the effects. Both of them are using those double tracking, so they're very similar in the panning, the humanization of the multi-track simulated performances. But I think that the Songwriter, for this one, it's got a little bit more of a quirky character to it, and I think that's going to add to this piece of music. Even though you've only got a little bit of a hint of what the music sounds like, I think you get a feel for that as well playing through it. So thanks for taking a little time to check out this comparison video. Comparison videos aren't always the easiest to do, and they aren't always fair to do. But I really felt like this could be a way to kind of showcase the same developers' instruments using the same developers' tools they've got built into the instruments, as well as the same strumming patterns exactly. So you could hear a little bit of difference of what these guitars might have to offer. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with my selection, or would you have chosen another direction to go in? Please comment in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe. I'd love your support. And be sure to head over to samplelibraryreview.com for the latest news, reviews, and our weekly deals page.